this hammer, wow, and carry to the captain, wow. Take this hammer, wow, and carry.
Bob Dylan called it that label with all the great songs. He said recording there would have been a dream come true. Columbia? RCA? No, Dylan's dream was a stubborn little label run out of a storefront in Greenwich Village called Folkways Records, founded in 1948 by Mo Ash and Marion Distler. It released nearly 2,200 albums, of which barely 200 turned a profit. But they weren't turning profits. They were creating, as Ash put it, an encyclopedia of human sound. Folkways was the original underground label, a renegade defying the tastes and politics of the times. Yet today, it is Smithsonian Folkways, the official label of the Smithsonian Institution. If that seems strange, follow its unlikely odyssey, and it makes wonderful sense. Folkways began after Mo's first label went bankrupt, a result of his only attempt to have a commercial hit. He decided the secret of success was to never have a hit, and oh, the things he did to avoid it. Folkways released some of the oddest records ever made, of junkyard sounds and tree frogs, cable cars and birds, trains and insects, even Timothy Leary talking himself through an acid trip.
You must be ready to accept the possibility that there is an infinite range of awarenesses for which we now have no words.
But Folkways also documented history as it was being made. The civil rights movement in the words and songs of those living it. Martin Luther King, the Freedom Singers, Fannie Lou Hamer, and Medgar Evers.
Help us to fight this battle. Give us the courage to continue. Don't let us stop until the victory has been won. In Jesus' name we ask these blessings, and for his sakes. Amen. Oh, Lord.
Everybody.
Readings by Langston Hughes, Allen Ginsberg, Gertrude Stein, and Ash's father, Sholem Ash. Essential jazz works by Jelly Roll Morton, Mary Lou Williams, and Duke Ellington. But the albums Dylan was talking about were the folk albums, hundreds of them, by Pete Seeger, Woody Guthrie, Josh White, the New Lost City Ramblers, Doc Boggs, Elizabeth Cotten, Doc Watson. The greatest blues masters were there, Big Bill Broonzy, Reverend Gary Davis, Willie Dixon, bluegrass pioneers Bill Monroe, the Stanley Brothers, the Country Gentlemen, and field recordings, music as it was used by ordinary folks, over 100 from the Caribbean, 35 Native American albums, 30 from South America, from Siberian minstrels and Zulus, Japan and the Sea Islands. And Ash kept them all in print, whether they sold or not. He'd say, just because the letter J is less popular than S, you don't take it out of the dictionary. When Woody Guthrie begged Mo to reissue his out-of-print Dust Bowl ballads, he did. Ash thought we all owned the music of the world, and if commercial labels took it out of print, he said, they were destroying the culture. So I started to reissue records that I thought ought to be preserved. I was called a pirate, but it is our right to know. His greatest piracy was the Anthology of American Folk Music, roots records from the early music industry collected by Harry Smith. It became a primary source book of the revival and led to the rediscovery of forgotten giants like Blind Lemon Jefferson, Mississippi John Hurt, and Bascom Lamar Lunsford. Mo could be a bit casual about paying artists. As a child, Tony Seeger, who became Smithsonian Folkway's first director, thought there must be two Mo Ashes, the one Uncle Pete adored and the one that made him yell so loud, usually about money. but Ash was so generous in other ways. During the anti-communist hysteria, he invented work for blacklisted artists, creating some of Folkway's most ambitious projects, including Pete Seeger's America's Favorite Ballads and Leadbelly's Last Sessions. Labels were wary of ex-convict Leadbelly Ledbetter. Ash defied the stereotype, releasing an album of him singing children's songs.
Now, this is a gray goose. Down in my home, people go to church on a Sunday, a Baptist church, and I had a preacher which was the pastor of that church. And instead of he going to church that Sunday, he went out and tried to kill a gray goose, and the goose is still laughing at him. One Sunday morning, Lord, 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 preacher went a-hunting. Lord, 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 he carried along a shotgun. Lord, 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 don't come a gray goose.
Its success led to children's classics by Guthrie, Seeger, Sooney Paz, and the profoundly influential Ella Jenkins, whom Hillary Clinton calls the First Lady of children's music. Folkways recorded everything exactly as it was performed. Moe believed that a recording should be an accurate reflection of an artist's expression, said Richard Carlin, author of Worlds of Sound, the story of Smithsonian Folkways. Marion Distler is too often dismissed as Moe's assistant. In fact, she started Folkways with Ash and was a true partner. Smithsonian Folkways archivist Jeff Place says, Woody's letters to Folkways began Dear Moe and Marion. Her stamp is everywhere, in equal measure. Distler died in 1964, Ash in 1986. His final demand that everything remain in print. Even the insect albums? Who's going to do that? Maybe a place called America's Closet. Smithsonian Folkways director Daniel Sheehy told the New York Times, the Smithsonian is in the business of making everything available forever. Over 400 albums have now been added to the catalog, and the archives house 32 other collections and 11 record labels. That's over 4,000 albums, 45,000 tracks, documented, digitized, and made available to the public. We're still trying to create that encyclopedia of human sound, still looking to see what we don't have, says Director Sheehy, and culture doesn't sit still, so the encyclopedia will never be complete. And you can hear the grin in his voice. The same grin that must have crossed the faces of Moe Ash and Marion Distler every time they finished a record, rubbed their hands together and said, okay, what's next?
Will this parting be forever? Will there be no dawning day when our hearts will be united, all our worries pass away?